So First Contact, my favorite of these four, your favorite of these four.
Well, it had a lot of action in it, but it had a lot of cerebral things in it as well. You meet Zephyr Cochrane, who was played by Richard Cromwell, who's been in any type of Star Trek you can think of. He's been in an original movie, The Final Frontier. He's been in characters in The Next Generation. He's been in Deep Space Nine. He's been in Enterprise. I even think he was in a Voyager episode. But he plays Zephyr Cochrane, the creator of Warp Drive.
Yep.
Now, I love the story of how Warp Drive was created. It was right after World War III. He takes an old missile and converts it. Now, where the hell did they get the technology to build a warp engine after World War III out of a nuclear bomb where they're living like Mad Max days?
You're right. That is a hole. That is like a little mini hole.
They've never touched on this. They've mentioned it, but you had to think about it, not actually see it.
Right.
So they build the ship. The Borg, which has been a nemesis of Next Generation from the entire series and Voyager and Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Figured out a way, we can't beat the Federation, so we're going to travel back in time and get them when they're weak. That's what happens here. So the Borg go back in time, blow their ship up, they beam over to the Enterprise and start assimilating it. The rebuilt Enterprise, Enterprise E in First Contact. Most sophisticated starship. My most favorite part of First Contact is the first 10 minutes of it, where the Borg are coming to attack Earth, and they have all the starships trying to fight them at the beginning of it, remember? And Worf shows up with the Defiant from Deep Space Nine, which is a ship that was built to fight the Borg, which gets his ass kicked in like the first 2 seconds it shows up. Another thing I didn't like. Worf gets all crybaby about everything, and let me ram it with my ship. And he did the whole Klingon thing.
Dude, there was many taser fights in this, and I loved it.
Did you say taser fights?
Or what are they, lasers?
Phasers.
Phasers?
Yes.
Dude, many phaser fights in First Contact.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it because of that. It was, and Data, God almighty. Data.
They say his name like 100 times on a show, Randy.
Data hold on a second. Data redeems himself because he is a much better acting person, because now he has more control over his human emotions.
Yes.
And my favorite line is, "To hell with our orders."
Yes.
From when Picard asked the crew, if you don't want to be a part of this. Go ahead.
No, you go. I'm sorry. I thought you were doing your rant. Oh, you're right.
No. I love them running through the ship, fighting the Borgs, walking by them casually, acting like nothing's going on.
Well, that's how the Borg are.
Right. And
Unless
then when you start, and then they're having to move around the ship, and the Borgs are chasing them, and they go in there and they dance with the hologram, and I loved all that. I thought that was fantastic. My favorite.
But First Contact. You not being a fan, or not a fan, of you not being able to watch Next Generation, that whole scene on the holodeck was lost to you. Because there was so much more to that than just them going in there dancing.
Oh, okay.
He went back and pulled a book, which Picard loves. He's done on the holodeck many times. He plays a character out of a book called, Dixon Hill. It's a private detective from the 30s or the 40s. And that's who he portrays in these holodeck novels, which is a book, and it's called The Big Goodbye, and he was looking for a certain scene where a guy had a machine gun, which was Nicky the Nose, had the steel nose, struck the match off it, and in his violin case was a machine gun. So when you're on the holodeck, you can't get hurt. People can shoot you, they can stab you, and it's hologram, but you can remove the holographic safety protocols. So he was trying to lure the Borg in, because the Borg assimilate everything. So they've been shot by phasers and lasers and whatever, but they never come up against a machine gun.
Right.
So Picard had figured that out, and he said, well, they'll get in here and I'll just shoot them with a slow moving projectile, and it did. He knocked down 3 or 4 of them,
Yeah. One thing also is when they were outside the spaceship trying to remove the satellite, I guess.
No, so they were going to adjust the deflector dish.
Right, so that the Borgs couldn't send a message.
Yep.
I felt like the spacesuits were too 21st century.
I enjoyed the spacesuits.
You did? Okay.
Yes. If you watch original Star Trek, they were very symbolic of that.
Okay.
in a way. The old clunky ones, if you want to talk about modern tech, yes, they were modernized a lot.
Right.
But then you get Discovery and look how much technology is with their spacesuits. It's 10 times better, and it's supposed to be 100 years in the past from where they are in this movie. So
yeah,
I have to keep cutting on those Discovery movies,
know.
those shows. But great movie, a lot of action, a lot of tips of the hat. Barkley shows up in it, played by Mad Murdock from the A-Team, Dwight Schultz. He's in there, and there's a couple other characters from original Next Generation movies.
Right.
They end up defeating the Borg, doing the time travel, fixing that. It was a great movie. I loved it. I watched it a month ago. I thought it was great.
It's my favorite of the 4.
I watched it on First Contact Day, which was last month.
Yeah. So what do you rate it at 1 out of 10, Sean?
I'm gonna give them a strong 9
on a First Contact.
Yes, on out of 10 tasers. Out of 10 tasers, I give it a strong 9 taser.
I like that. That's good.
This is Taser Face.